Namaste everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host Kushalmehra. My guest today is Nirwa Mehta. Nirwa is an editor in Op India. She's also an author of the book, let me get the name right, Flawed but Fabulous. And her Twitter bio says she's an acquired taste here to create a dent in the universe. Nirwa, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right, obviously, but today, guys, we are going to be talking about four specific reports, by the way, fantastic reports, which have been recently been written in the month of January by Nirwa. So I think the first report was called Love, Land, and Jihad: Stories of Conversion from Gujarat, How Puja Survived to Tell the Tale. That was written on 10th January. Then on the 13th of January, it was part two, where Nirva says of mysterious water in dargahs, black magic and exploitation, grooming jihad horrors from the hinterland of Gujarat. To then on the 17th of January, which is a tale of two cities, which is Gopipura in Surat and Soni Falia in Bharuch, how Jains and Hindus are leaving their homes as the localities shift demography. Two, on the 20th of January, the report is titled आपका पैगाम लंदन पहुंचा दिया है अच्छा काम हो रहा है fraud funding forced religious conversion tales from Gujarat. So just to give you guys a brief idea, I want Nirwa to maybe narrate all the four reports today in the beginning of the podcast. So a lot of the first half of the podcast is going to be about what were the experiences, what are the reports, and then maybe I can go do a bit of a back and forth later on. So Nirva, let's do this. First of all, fantastic work. I was really blown away. It was excellent. The reporting was amazing. So Nirva, let's start with this. Let's start with the first one. So what exactly was the 10th January report about?
So I'll start with sometime in October last year when I came across very one report about land conversion, rather the Disturbed Areas Act violation in Surat. From that, I started getting more and more information, and then I got a few more leads. And at some point, after discussion with Rahul, we decided to pursue those leads and see where it takes us. So, when I went to Surat in January first week, I was not prepared for what would come to me. I was going with an open mind that I may come back empty-handed also, and it's just time and money wasted. But I actually came back with a lot of change perspectives, a lot of things that made me feel way too privileged as an individual. That and thank my stars that I did not have to go through these things. On my very first day in Surat, so I did have a lot of ground support from Hindu organizations, the Bajrang Dal, you know the Hindu Jagrati Manch, the RSS. They were very, very, very helpful, and they went beyond their duty to help me bring out these stories. Uh, so the first day, so the first story is about the girl. We've changed the name because to protect her identity. She was a minor when she went through the ordeal. She was 17. So Surat. One thing that have been noticed is that in across the cities, when you enter the cities, all the entry points, there are a lot of these industrial areas. That is there in Ahmedabad also. That's there in Surat also. So Surat, near Surat, there is this industrial area called Sachin, where there are a lot of these apparel. Surat, as we know, is a hub for apparel, textiles, and diamonds. So a lot of these migrant workers come there and they work there. A lot of these are very poor people, economically very, very backward, and they all start going to work along with their studies at a very young age. So this young girl used to go to this apparel factory with her sister and her mother, who also used to work at the same place. She tells me about how one of her colleagues, Dilshad, he managed to get her number, her phone number, because her phone was lying at the desk one fine day, and she had stepped away, and he took her number. Then he started reaching out to her कि मैं तुमसे प्यार करता हूँ, मैं तुमसे मिलना चाहता हूँ, मैं तुमसे दोस्ती करना चाहता हूँ. She said, "Mujhe ye sab, I don't like all this, so I don't want to be part of this." After pursuing her for a couple of days, weeks, he said, "Ki, okay, meet me once, and then I'll never bother you again." So she decided that okay, I'll meet him once, and then we'll, that then he'll probably let go of me. When she did go to meet him, he kind of abducted her with two other people. They took her from Sachin to some place. There was one place near Surat. It was a dargah where she was taken first, and then from there she was taken to Mumbai. From Mumbai, she was taken to the boys' village in Bihar, in Katihar. And there she said ki the guy, he told everyone that he wants to marry her and this and that, and everyone was initially apprehensive of getting him married to her because she was a Hindu. But he was very adamant, so they kind of gave in. Initially, they got registered under the Special Marriage Act, but eventually he started getting her to he got her to convert, wear a burqa, read a namaz. A Maulana had come to get them married, get the nikah done. So one thing is that if you're getting a nikah, the Islamic marriage, both the people have to be Muslims. So whenever people say that nikah hua hai, that means that the non-Muslim has converted to Islam. So conversion is there. In this case particularly, we can see that it was a forced conversion because she did not convert out of her free will. At some point, her brother got in touch with some Hindu activists in Sachin, who then decided and tried to rescue her. And they tried to talk. The father got in touch with her. Dilshad would not let her talk, and somehow they got to know they convinced her that her mother is unwell. They sent her pictures of her from the hospital, and the girl was like, okay, let me go meet them. I'll do whatever you say. I'll come back, but let me go meet him. So when her father came to pick her up, they sent, he sent, Dilshad made sure that he's alone. There's no one with him, no police, no activist with him. Only then did he allow to let her go. Once back, she told her ordeal to her mother and sister that how she was made to wear the burqa and made to read the namaz, and she's like, when I would sleep in the room, his mother would come and would do something on the bed sheet. So she was also taken to a dargah and made to drink water, which is one of the major recurring themes, where the girls are taken to dargahs a lot of times, and they're made to drink some liquid. They say some water, but I don't know what it is. So some
Just one question:
water.
is it like with the intention to spike the drink or something?
Most people say so. The activists I talked to, and everyone said that it is more of a Vashikaran thing. I tend to be little rational, and I don't want to believe that Vashikaran or things can happen. But the world is a strange place, and anything can happen. So I cannot completely dismiss a lot of things unless I see it with my own bare eyes. But so they also tell the activists that whenever we rescue girls, we make sure that if she's wearing any dhaga, any taviz, any such thing, we make sure that they get them off. Now, this girl says that once she was back home, she would wake up in the morning reciting the namaz, and she has no recollection of doing that. So, in just 3-4 weeks that she spent in Katihar at that guy's place, she learned how to recite the namaz as well, and how it's to be done, and the prayers and all that. So that's also a very unbelievable thing, because if this is unbelievable, this exactly is also unbelievable. But there are witnesses to this. So this is what happened, and then she was like, okay, I'm here, but then people would keep looking at me as if mere saath bahut bura hua hai, and she was feeling humiliated by the society at large, who kept some of them taunting and not being nice generally. So she one fine day decided to go back to the Shad, because why not? It makes more sense that at least he loved her. That's what he said. but and at least it would be away from the humiliation she was facing here. Thankfully, when she left, her sister noticed that she was gone, and she again got back in touch with the people who rescued her. And when she boarded a train from Surat to go to whatever place she was going, they managed to stop her at Sachin itself. They got her back, and so to keep her away from the society pressure that she was suffering from, another activist took her in. She would counsel her, empathize with her, speak to her that it's not her fault and things are okay, things will be okay. Over the years, it's been 6 7 years since that happened, and over the years she's in a better place mentally. She was brave enough to come on record to say this. um, when she started crying, I was, see, it's one thing reading about these things on in media. Every day you read about things, but it's another thing completely when the victim is sitting right in front of you. And I felt like no one in my entire extended family and friends has ever been through similar situation. And
True.
she was only 17 when that happened to her.
True.
Right. At 17, what were we doing? We lived such careless lives. We did not have to face any society humiliation. We were not kidnapped. We were not asked, forced to convert our religion. We didn't even know that these things existed.
Yeah.
So that was kind of that kind of made me, realize, and it was kind of a reality check for me. Okay, dude, no, I really uh, things are really bad, and we don't really know how bad things are for a lot of people out there. I also spoke to a lot of activists there, so police and all of these, the people who have rescued and all. Couple of things that came were, as I said, this vashikaran is one of the recurring themes. Um, uh, those who believe, they do believe that these things exist. So I'm not going to deny all that. Um, Other thing is that they get a lot of training. Uh, some of these people are groomed to make sure that these things happen, to lure girls into relationships. There is also one concern which comes that when such girls are rescued, when they come back, the family support is sometimes missing.
Hmm.
They constantly face humiliation. They feel that they are made to feel little worthless. So uh, that's where their morale also breaks. Uh, so I think as a society we need to be a little more empathetic, and police also. So police, I spoke to the dig Surat, and he said that a lot of these times parents don't keep an eye on their own children. They go to the police when things have already gone out of hand. um,
Mm.
if your child is, and not just in these kind of cases of conversion and all, but also in cases of drug abuse, uh,
Mm.
that if your child is being little strange, maybe take note of these things. But So yeah, that was the my first story on the conversion of this girl. um
All right.
Anything on
Now
this?
let's talk. I want you to because see, it was a flowing pieces, right? It was one after the other. So let's go now to the
Right.
next one where you talk about mysterious water in dargahs, black magic, and exploitation. Because is there anything from the second part where which you would want to talk about?
In this, there was one interesting thing was that there are a couple of dargahs in and around Surat. So I talk about in and around Surat only because that's only where these are the only two places I went to. Um,
Hmm.
some of these dargahs, I'll not take the names, are a little shady. They are accused of being centers for conversion. Um, they so how the escape law is that the conversion or such illegal activities they don't take place in the premises inside the dargah, but it's so near the gate. So you are still there. They get the refuge. They get the support from the maulanas, from the dargahs for these conversion, but they somehow still manage to escape the law. A lot of these places also get a lot of funding. They have lawyers, high profile lawyers, uh, they defending them. They have lawyers ready for affidavits and conversion papers whenever required. So these
Yeah,
things
how the
are
hell
there.
do they
There are
manage this, Nirva? Because this part struck out to me also, that they have like a battery of lawyers who are high profile.
yeah,
How the hell did they manage this?
I- it's actually very surprising. In fact, some lawyers and some businessmen in Surat are also accused of being part of these illegal funding, which goes into the madrasas and dargahs and mosques, where they eventually are used for such illegal conversion activities and other terror activities, obviously. So yeah, that's actually very surprising and very unfortunate also. A lot of these recently, one Vadodara based trust, AFMI, its license, FCRA license was cancelled in December. That trust is accused of money laundering and using the money they get for charity for post religious conversions. The trustee, the one who ran the trust, Salahuddin Sheikh, is currently in custody of UP ATS for the UP forced conversion racket, Umar Gautam one. So somehow these two, the one which we'll talk later in some time, the Bharuch conversion case, mass conversion of tribals, and the UP ATS, they are somehow at some point they have their crossed paths. So dargahs are mysterious. They have so one thing I got to know, or rather was very interesting, was so dargahs don't really actively have the conversion bid in it. Uh, one of the source told me that they act as place where there are certain dargahs near Surat which are very popular as the epitome of communal harmony, like many
Hmm.
other dargahs across India, which are very popular tourist destinations also. They are an epitome of communal peace and harmony. He said that 95% people who still go to these dargahs are Hindus. They identify themselves as Hindus. They have not converted, but they would rather go there every week, every other day, chadar chadhane and all that, because they feel that they are closer to the dargahs than they are to their own faith. So, by this way, they are diluting their own faith. So they're still Hindus, but their faith in Hinduism is diluted. So going forward, it would be little easier for them to be lured into conversion into Islam, because they already feel so much attached to the dargahs, and they feel that the saint has helped and Allah has listened to them. So uh, maybe Allah will listen to you if you convert to Islam. So that is
Interesting.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost as if, I don't know how to say it, but we'll talk about it once we narrate the stories, because I have so many angles that we can cover from all of this, internally from a community point of view. But I want to leave it to the latter after discussion. Okay, now let's go to the third one, where you talk about Gopipura in Surat and Soni Falia in Bharuch, how Jains
Sony
and
Fari
Hindus
and
are
Bharuch.
leaving the, yeah, Hindus are leaving their homes as the localities shift demography. Now, just before you come up with the story, this is the same one that was doing rounds on Twitter, right?
Yeah, the very popular clip had gone viral that lady in burqa was asking one of the residents that if this house is for sale, and the resident gets really angry and he talks her down that no, this house is not for sale. Aapko kisne bola? Don't come here again. So we went to that place. It was once a Jain majority area. A couple of years back, one Jain Sadhvi who used to live there in that area, she that I think it around 2015, if I'm not wrong, because she wrote the letter to the Chief Minister of Gujarat, who was Anandiben Patel, and one of the copies also went to the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. So she wrote a letter to the leaders of the country, and she said that. Over the years, a lot of Muslim neighbors have uh, purchased the property in their house, and uh, while God has made everyone similar, and all are same in the eyes of the God, uh, there is a constant harassment she has been facing. She said that she's a Jain, and in their faith, they don't even eat non-veg. They don't even eat root vegetables for that matter, because
Mm.
that's Jeev Daya and all that. So when during the Bakri, then all she said she saw that they got the Bakris and they would tie the Bakri in their courtyard, and just to tease her, they would take the goat for a walk and make her stand in front of her house. They would peel onion, garlic, and put the peels in front of her house. Onion, garlic is also one of the things Jains don't consume. So
Mm.
that was kind of harassment she was facing. And on one of the days, they slaughtered one of the goat, and at 4 in the morning, and the goat cried out so loudly, and she woke up from her sleep, and she was so devastated by the cries of the goat. She started chanting the Navkar mantra and all that, and nothing would make her feel better. Her heart was in so much pain because of the slaughter happening right across her place. And a couple of hours later, they slaughtered another goat in the similar fashion, washing the blood in front of her house. She went out and she was stopped by someone who told her that "Aap mat aao, because there is blood mixed with water here." So that was so much harassment. She actually tried to commit suicide. uh, but thankfully she was saved. She now has been relocated elsewhere, but that was in Gopipura. Subsequently, the Disturbed Areas Act was brought in Gopipura. uh, Disturbed Areas Act is an act that our Gujarat government implemented a couple of years back, and we'll discuss about it at a later stage, so that there's some little clarity on the Disturbed Areas Act. And So basically, Disturbed Areas Act would put restriction, not saying that they would reject, but the process becomes more stringent of transfer of immovable property. So that was happening. So Gopipura was brought into the Disturbed Areas Act, and the transfer of property eventually became a little tougher. But again, it's not tough as it should be in the law, because the rules were not framed. आप law ला दिए but rules frame नहीं किए, so it's still happening as it was happening earlier without the law being in place. So about uh, I think 40% of 40-50% of the population now there is Muslim, which was earlier 100% Jain population. There are derasars and other places of worship for Jains in the locality, but there are more masjids coming up as well. So that is the story of Gopipura, and people are wanting to leave their homes because Jains and Muslims. Muslims are generally they don't have any such restrictions on food, and they do consume non-vegetarian. And Jains who don't even consume potatoes, onion, garlic, for them to get the smell of non-vegetarian cooking right across is not easy to live with. And some of them also started facing harassment of the girls being harassed. uh, so things were happening, and so things escalated, and some people started leaving the houses. So once one person goes, the other person will start leaving, and one their house is now being sold to a Muslim resident, because they are quite keen on buying their houses to to stay within their community, nearer to their community, because there is already such a huge population of Muslims there now. So that's exactly what polarization of population is. That's what Disturbed Areas Act tries to stop, that people should not have to leave their house out of fear. uh, Similar case is in Bharuch as well, where Soni Faria is. Faryu is basically, so if you've been to old cities in Gujarat, I don't know about other parts of the state of the country, but in Gujarat they are poor. ports are the old cities' narrow, winding lanes where initial civilization started. When the cities were developed, those were the original cities. So they are narrow lanes and all. In those narrow lanes, one particular lane would be a for you, right? So Sony for you is that one particular lane where, which was again a Hindu population, and suddenly one person starts buying a house, and then other houses start going for sale. Once sometimes people start leaving the city, they move to a bigger place because Farias and Old City are little tinier apartments, tiny houses. So once they start moving to a bigger place, their house are sold, and uh, again that also has a Disturbed Areas Act in place, where there are things like violation, circumventing the process happens. Um, One of the modus operandi, rather, there was that original seller is a Hindu, first buyer is a Hindu, Hindu person two buys from Hindu person one. Now a Muslim person one comes in the picture, and within just 2 months, Hindu person two will sell the house to Muslim person one. So if property is being sold at such short notices, there is something which is not right. And not just one property, multiple properties like this are being sold, where such transactions take place in very short span of time. One similar, so that's one of the cases of Sony Faria, where this way. And there's a temple there, 150-year-old temple of Lord Shiva, and right across there now entire neighborhood of that Lord Cārvāka temple is of Muslim residents. They don't like, there's a Jalaram Bapa temple also there, and they don't like the Aarti because Aarti is a haram, and hence they objected to the Aarti being played at the temple. So that also kind of offended the religious sentiments of the Hindus there. And the activists and the residents there told me that when they reached out to the police administration, they were harassed by the administration, and they were in fact threatened with cases for trying to break the communal peace and harmony. Yeah, similar. In fact,
इसको
so
हिंदी में कहते हैं उल्टा चोर कोतवाल को डांटे.
yeah. The reason I got to know so much more in detail about the Disturbed Areas Act was the first case which we did was in Surat, in the building called Rehan Heights. I think it is a Adajan area, if I'm not wrong. In a Disturbed Areas Act, what happens is when a person wants to buy or sell property, irrespective of religion, it's a longer process in a disturbed area if that part area comes under the Disturbed Areas Act. So the corporator will have to, the commissioner will have to go and speak to the neighbors, make sure that, take it in writing, interview them, that they don't have an issue if the property is sold between these two people. It's a longer process than a normal process in, say, another part of the city where any normal buying selling can take place. This is to make sure that there is no polarization, that everyone is well aware of the properties being sold and purchased. So in Rehan Heights, what had happened was that land, say, belonging to Mr. X, a Hindu, was wanted a partnership firm of Muslim businessmen. They wanted to purchase the land. Just before the deal, they got a Hindu partner on board with 10% share, and the deal took place. When the deal took place, this was happening in 2020 when the initial lockdown was in place for coronavirus. So during that time, they put up the file in the corporation, key transfer of movable property, and they said, say the Hindu man's name is Mansukh Bhai. So Mansukh Bhai and others. So corporate is like, this is a Hindu person selling to a Hindu person, and they were like, okay, maybe it's a COVID times, and they probably overlooked the whole Disturbed Areas Act bit. They did not do the due diligence. transfer property ho gayi. Once that happened, the Hindu partner was removed and two more Muslim partners were brought in. And they started construction of building, and eventually, so all these people, they fought the case and they got a stay on the further construction, and now the transfer property deal is also stands cancelled now as per the corporation. So now they will have to figure out what is to be done next. So these are the things that have happened. This is what triggered my little interest in the Disturbed Areas Act, and we can talk more on it later. But that was the land jihad bit.
All right. Now let's go to the last one where you talk about fraud
Hmm.
funding forced religious conversions, especially in the tribal areas, right? So let's talk
Hmm.
about that.
Right. So generally, what comes to our minds when we talk about conversion of people in tribal areas is unfortunately the Christian missionaries, because those are one of like prominent places like the Dangs here in Gujarat. They are very prominent when it comes to conversion. So when I got to know about conversion of tribal Hindus to Islam, I got a little interested. So when I was in Surat, I made a trip to Bharuch. It's about 100 kilometers from Surat. Bharuch, Bharuch is a district. In Bharuch district, there is Amod Gam, Amod Taluka. In Amod Taluka, there is a Kankaria village. It is so obscure, Kushal. It is so obscure that it's not even on Google Maps. And Google Map has everything, including the tree outside my house. So it is that obscure. In that obscure
The
village,
only reason I
37
know about
families.
Bharuch and the surrounding areas is because there's a big GIDC in Dahej.
Oh yes, Dahej. Uh, Dahej and Surat ke paas Hazira. But anyway, so uh, when I went there, the people there are extremely poor. There is only one, the Sarpanch, who has a pakka house, that to two rooms. There is extreme poverty. So sometime 2009 ke aspas, I talked to the person who filed the FIR in the forced religious conversion cases in November last year. He told me about the how things happened with him and with people around him. He said that one Thakur Bhai Vasawa, in their village, he had a shop, and one of their suppliers was one I forget the name. I think Samad Bakery Wala and his brother Shabbir Bakery Wala, if I'm not mistaken. They would so they were the ones who were their sellers, suppliers. uh, the bakery wala brothers, they initially got him converted to Islam. He then got some another guy called Ajit Wasawa converted to Islam, and subsequently four more people got converted to Islam in quick succession in 2009 around. What got them set the alarms off were the fact that the latest conversion at that time was of the Mandir ka Pujari. So that's when they were like, yes, you now can't be the pujari of the mandir, if you're not following the faith. So they were like, either leave the village or revert to Hinduism again. Some of them decided to revert, and some of them were like, so they first left and then they came back and then they reverted. One of them was Ajit Pasawa, but the person who had filed the FIR, he alleged that he continued the conversion, luring people to conversion. They were lured by offering money and food. Initially, food and oil and masalas were offered to them. Then it went to money. He was one of the source. He told me that he was offered. So what they happened was there were a bunch of people. Feftawala, one of the accused is Feftawala, who also came from a village called Nabipur near Bharuch, and he currently lives in UK. He is also an associate of Salahuddin Sheikh, we just talked about, who is also associated with the UPATS and UP conversion racket. So they would ask money from the UK and other places, foreign funding. So they would get money that, we are converting so many people. We need to, so many people are coming to Islam. So we need to give them money and, for their well being and for, keeping them happy and whatever. because we have made promises to them. So say they get 1 lakh rupee per person from London, they would pass on only 1,000, 2,000 rupees to these people. So the rest of the money, either they would use it on their own or they would use for other funding purposes. Nobody knows. So that used to happen. When I asked him how, what did they tell you? Why should you convert to Islam? So couple of things was that a they were asked that if they convert to Islam, they will be given money, jobs, a woman to marry. So these were the things to promised to them, and they were also. So I asked them, were they told something about negative about Hinduism? Okay, they will tell you that Islam is great and all that. Maybe maybe it is, but did they tell you anything about how Hinduism is? Why you should leave Hinduism? He was very apprehensive and felt really ashamed to say these things. He was not sure if he should, because he thought I may feel offended by it, but like it's okay. You can tell me what is what you were told. Um very So they were told little things like so let's understand, these are tribals. They have had very little education. They are very poor. They have had very little exposure to the outside world. So they are told that you go to a temple, there is prasad, आप देते हो भगवान को. But on that prasad you can see makhi and cheeti coming and sitting on the prasad. So what kind of god, or is your god so powerful that he can't get rid of those flies of the prasad? uh, so okay, so these people, they're like, maybe he's right. How can my all powerful god can't get rid of the flies even from the prasad that is offered to him? Then he was told about the story we've all grown up listening to about Mata Parvati and Ganesha, and how she had once gone for a bath, and Ganesha was standing guard at the door, and Lord Shiva comes looking for Mata Parvati, and they are told that how Lord Shiva killed his own son. So they are questioned, how can a father not know his own son, especially if he's a god? How can a god not know that it's his own son? So, okay, so that's what they start wondering. Ki, Acha, maybe he makes sense. And then they are told about how, as a god, Lord Shiva killed an innocent elephant to bring back his son, to change the head and all that. So they were like, if he's so all powerful god, how did he not bring him back to life on his own? Why did he have to kill another soul to bring back Lord Ganesha? So that's when they tell you that, how can there be so many gods? Only humans can be so many. Look at you, so many people around. How can there be so many gods? Uh, so yeah, there were ways to put doubts in their heads about against Hinduism. And then they're made to taken that old Maulanas come from other parts of the country. They are taken to places like the Jamaats. They were taken to in Bombay and near Bombay, and they're made to feel very important, that so many people in powerful positions, and the Maulanas telling them that now that they're in the Allah's क्या कहते हैं उसको, now that they're with Allah, that only good things will happen to them. And
Chhatra Chaya.
Chhatra Chaya. I blame my COVID brain for forgetting words. But, so the headline of that article, as I said, it was Aapka Paigam. So imagine in an obscure village where nothing works, this fellow is telling them कि मैं आपका पैगाम लंदन पहुंचा दूंगा. So these people feel so important that their message is now going to go to London, all the way till London. So they were made to feel very important कि कि हमारे लिए क्या क्या we are so important in the whole scheme of things.
You know what I find funny about this whole thing is that they're converting by finding the absurdity in one story. Look, I'm a disbeliever, so I, I got no dog in this fight. But you know what I find funny is it's like the guy who believed their prophet went on a winged horse thinks the other person's story is funny. It's just every time I listen to these arguments, I just that's the first thing that comes to my head. You literally believe in a winged horse. How can you convert someone else on the basis of that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but they were also, in fact, what shocked me was that they were also lured to take up jihad. They were offered money to take up jihad eventually, but this fellow said no, and then he went and filed a complaint against them. So, yeah, all power to him.
Oh my god! It's it's just it's just every time this happens. Look, now let's talk about something. So first of all, you did
Hmm.
talk about it in the beginning, but I have to ask this. So, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this. Look, I have personal experience of now more than a decade. I don't share the details of it on my show or on Twitter or on social media for multiple reasons, and I'll continue to do that. But I have worked in slums, in villages, scheduled tribe villages, scheduled caste villages. I've seen many things in my life in the last decade through my activism, political, social, whatever. But I want to hear from you now. You've traveled extensively. These four reports involve a lot of traveling. And when I say traveling, not just ki मैंने इतने किलोमीटर गाड़ी चलाई. No, no, no. Literally, walking, meeting people. So first, I want to ask you, how do you feel?
Um, I couldn't sleep for a couple of days. I even now I sometimes feel I get very disturbed sleep because of all the things that I heard, and I felt that um I felt guilty for being privileged at a lot of times, that I did not have to go through all these things, and it's just so sad when that girl was crying in front of me. And what was worse was, not just that these stories exist, but there is a huge section of society which is ready to dismiss the stories as real stories. One, there are so many people who dismissed the testimony of this girl as she is a paid BJP or Hindutva troll, on doing saying all these things on instructions of Modi. Why would
हाँ जी,
this
मोदी
this
मतलब
this
पर्सनली
poor,
कॉल कर रहा है.
हाँ मोदी personally call
ए
कर रहा है
शाबाश,
to
मोदी
this
कितना
girl,
वेल्ला प्राइम मिनिस्टर है.
all the all the way in an obscure place like Sachin, which is so far off. And they just dismiss these stories. Uh, I believe not all interfaith marriages are love jihad, or rather grooming jihad. That's what we call them, because if I firmly believe there is no such thing as love jihad. If there is love, it's not jihad. If it is jihad, it's not love. So yes, so interfaith marriages, they happen. People are very happy in their interfaith married lives, and more love to them, good for them. But having said that, you cannot dismiss this part of the reality as well, that these things are
Exactly.
happening right in front of our eyes. It's okay if you don't want to believe, but don't or you want to live in a happy bubble where there's only happy endings to all the love stories that you hear. But uh, very interestingly, so I got to know that these dargahs, or a lot of these, some of these masjids, they act as training ground for men, young boys, to train them to do this grooming jihad and all. What they do is um, that the good looking ones are given training on how to, where to go, how to meet girls, how to speak to them, how to make them feel important. One thing that came out was that all these girls are from such poor, economically weak section of the society. A lot of these girls have also seen only those men in their lives who are alcoholics. They've only seen that the father in their homes are alcoholic and beating up the mother all the time, so her all the time. So that's all their idea of a man. Now here comes a man, very good looking boy who drives a bullet, has so much money to spare to buy a bullet, and also fuel money, because obviously fuel is expensive. Everyone knows that. Uh, n- Now this guy, he tells her that हमारे में alcohol is haram. So obviously this girl who thinks that the root cause of all problems in life is alcohol, she agrees that if he does not believe in, he does not consume alcohol, and he's definitely a good boy. Only that he probably isn't, because there is no real identity about him. They get married whenever they do. Sometimes the only proof of address is the rental agreement, which also has a wrong address a lot of times. They will use very generic names like Sonu, Samir, which can be either Hindu or a Muslim. The girl probably doesn't even know a lot of times.
मैंने कुणाल नाम भी सुना हुआ है बाय द वे. कुणाल.
So yeah, so if there is this element of deceit in a relationship at whenever it is starting, how do you ignore it? uh, how do you dismiss the whole so many victims, their lives ruined? A very interesting thing I got to know was that so there are two kinds of women that are being targeted. Sometimes they are either these extremely poor girls from economically weak section, or a lot of times Dalit girls. Uh, and if not that, then it is either those girls who are financially well off and upper class girls. So, um, um, what was I saying? I forgot. Oh my God.
You're saying how they target people.
How they target people. Yeah.
Okay, so
Uh.
let me come in a little bit over here. So
Yeah.
where once you get your thought back, you go.
It just vanished. It
it's okay.
just vanished.
It's okay. It happens. It happens. We all have those moments. But okay, I want to come here and let's start now unpacking the entire series. So here's the thing. What happens is when we have discussions like this, you are 100% right that we cannot ignore the agony of that single person, no matter what. In India, we have these horrifying stories, no matter what people want to say, that happen. And especially, I want to talk about that, you know, the Jain Muslim conflict, which is very interesting because in here are in the eyes of the left, which looks at everything through, oppression, oppressor. That's how numbers and whatever they want to look at it. So even if I looked at it from a left wing perspective, Jains and Muslims are minority in India. In fact, Jains are an even smaller minority in terms of absolute numbers than Muslims in India. Now, here's a classic case where, Taleb kind of becomes right, where, as Nassim Taleb says, the most intolerant wins, kind of thing, right? If when it comes to, let's say, food habits. But let me be very clear, like, I was born and raised in a majority Jain area, and lo and behold, no non-veg is allowed there. Even today in Ghatkopar East, look, I have to be honest. If we're talking about this, let me be very honest. In a majority Jain area, like Jains live in complexes, so this is like, how builders in Ghatkopar do it, right? So in Mumbai there'll be a Derasar inside the complex.
Hmm, hmm,
Derasar hua, that is like a bat signal. Ahiyan aavi jao, Jain loko, kind of a thing. All the Jains will go there, and the Jains will buy a
hmm.
house. They will make sure no non-Jain enters that area, so they can then impose their rules and regulations on the entire society. So what is fascinating to me is because Jains, in my experience, are known to be very, particular about this, which is where. So I guess the Muslims outdid them in the intolerance too, because they're like, "Nah, bro, you're out of here." So this is one of the rare occasions the Jains lost because they've been beating Hindus in Ghatkopar in this department. Tum log niklo yahan se. You're not there. But and the Jain Hindu, confrontation barely happens is because they will always find a Hindu who's vegetarian and who would also love to go and stay in a Jain building which is vegetarian. But my larger question is, but then how do we balance this out, right? Because I have given you an example of Jains also doing this. They don't like non-veg, so they actively don't allow non-veg in societies. So how do we deal with this problem is my question to you.
I have no answer on how do you deal with this issue. I think uh, I don't know, because I can't really. Um, yeah, it's a difficult place to be in, but if yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer. There is no right
And
answer
you
to
can
this.
relate to what I'm saying, right? Because you're from Gujarat. Jains live in a huge number in Gujarat. I mean, I
Which is
have some
very
family
interesting,
members in
because
Gujarat.
Jains and Muslims also, a lot of these places where there are disturbed areas act in place, like Gopipura, for example, or Paldi in Ahmedabad, for that matter. These places are Jain majority, and Muslims and Jains, they live together types, uh, which is uh, which is very surprising a lot of times. But it is
It's not
what
surprising
it is.
because Jains are fundamentally fundamentalist, non-violent people. So it's never a problem to live with Jains. They're not going to kill you.
Yeah,
Kudos to
they're not
Jains.
going to kill
They
you.
see, the biggest thing is people always should remember one thing, right? The fundamentalist of a religion will be like the fundamentals of the religion. So what will a fundamentalist Jain be? My best friends are Jain. They don't even kill a mosquito. वो मच्छर
Yeah, they
आते तो
don't.
ऐसे करता है वो.
Yeah. I actually asked a colleague of mine. He's Jain, and I asked him that because I have an electric racket. It's my guilty pleasure. Every day I like to kill mosquitoes and see the dead bodies lying around me, which is very disturbing thought to have.
Did you share a
But
photo of that on Twitter too?
yeah, a couple of times I've done that. I think I may be a very disturbed individual and deeper, and but well, I work with Rahul Roshan, so I obviously need to be a little more off balance to have a boss like him.
Totally agree.
But so I asked him, what do they do with the mosquitoes? Do you kill them? He said, no, we don't kill them. In fact, on Bakri Eid, he and his family, they fast for the goats that have been sacrificed that day.
Yes.
They mourn the
So
death of those
I'll tell
goats.
you one thing. So you know, in Mumbai, Chembur area, there is this area called Devnar. So in Devnar, there is the largest slaughterhouse, like in Mumbai. I think it's a terrible place, by the way. Pathetic conditions. I mean, I don't know. So there is this community, a section of Jains that have been silently protesting. The most fascinating community of India will never raise a hand. They just hold placards outside across the road legally with police protection, and they've been protesting daily for years outside the Devnar depot. They don't bully, they don't heckle, they do nothing. They just stand outside, they hold a placard, and they say, "This is wrong." That's all they do.
Yeah,
Which is
and
where
they
the whole
they
question comes.
they,
Does
they
the other
apologize
community
to
follow
hurt.
this thing?
No, they don't. They don't. They
Yeah.
Giants.
That's
They even apologize every year for hurting you even by their thoughts. So
yeah.
yeah,
Michhami Dugram.
chami dokram.
So see,
But
my experience with Jains is intense. A, I'm a textile guy. B, I'm from Ghatkopar, so my life is all about textiles. And these areas you were talking about, right? So because textiles and Gujarat are like intertwined, and anybody even in Maharashtra will basically keep having, you know, these relationships with Gujarat. So this entire belt that you're talking about is pretty much the diamond textile belt, where Sachin and all that area, Ahmedabad and the surrounding areas of
mm,
Ahmedabad. Even interestingly, in Bharuch, in the extension area, there is a lot of this work that goes on. So yeah, it's interesting. But now I have to, and let me say, because see, somebody also asked this question in the live audience to me. They said that, Kushal, you have looked at the Pew report, which said Muslims in India believe in multiple gods. After listening to such stories, how much credible the report is? First of all, belief in multiple gods has nothing to do with conversion. You can still be a multiple god believing Muslims who still believes in proselytization. That's my first answer. But second, I want to share some data, right? So I was looking at the census data, right? When we're talking about conversion, we also have to talk about the impact. Not that I am very sad ki hi, what a sucky conversion ratio these people have. No, I'm celebrating that even if they're doing it, they kind of suck at it. And I want to ask you about, what happens because of what I have heard in Gujarat, in from my point of view. So the 2001 census report showed that we can only go by census report. So when it goes to off census, we can speculate anything. So 2001 census may, at least I'm giving it a 20-year period, I was looking at 9.1% was the population of Muslims in Gujarat in 2011, क्योंकि latest census, thanks to China, अभी वो report बाहर आ नहीं रही है for multiple reasons. China is amazing. That shows the Muslim percentage is 9.67%. Now, in terms of percentage of the population, it is not that significant a jump. I'm not saying there is no jump. So I want to be very precise here. So that means that while there are attempts, there are also counter attempts, because I've heard stuff like this also. I'm not going to take the names of the religious organizations. See, everybody can think RSS, Bajrang Dal, BJP, BHP, but there are multiple religious organizations of Gujarat that very actively, and I have seen it with my eyes, where one village converts, next day the Hindu organization goes, reconverts the whole damn village back into the fold of Hinduism, and it happens. And I don't want to take the name of the organization, is because it is sullied right now for a few acts of the leaders. समझदार को इशारा काफी होता है, वो लोग समझ जाएंगे, क्योंकि वो गुजरात से है तो लोगों को 2 मिनट में समझ पड़ जाएगा, but they do. So there is an active resistance to this. What I want to ask to you is that in your field work, did you see that resistance to reconvert people back who are being proselytized?
Yes, that is a yes. A lot of things, I think the data may also be incorrect, or rather factually little off, is because a lot of these conversions are not on paper. They're not documented. Not everything is filed in the court in affidavits. Um, so, mm, like the Vasawa community, which was so they took all of them to, because they probably wanted to get the money and all. They were taken to Surat from Bharuch in these Maruti Eco cars, and they had to file affidavit that they have converted. They got their official Aadhaar changed, and everything was changed for them. But a lot of times they don't even have these documentation. So it's very difficult to actually get the actual figure of how many are converted. But yes, there is resistance, not just in conversion, but also of there's a pushback also happening in some parts. Like uh, some organizations in Surat, they have started playing the Hanuman Chalisa twice a day. They say that this helps them get peace and brings them closer to the dharma. So twice a day,
The timing of the
on last
Hanuman
Friday.
Chalisa is also surprisingly amazing.
Yeah. But it's only twice a day, not more than that, I believe. But good Lord,
No, no,
oh God,
and all power to
I hope
them.
no one
Look,
comes to arrest me. Okay, that would be my father's nightmare come true if I get arrested at this point. But yeah.
no, no, it's okay. These are my words, not yours.
So yeah, there is a bit of resistance. Lot of people, they're counseled when the girls are converted, and when they are victims of grooming jihad, they are brought back to Hinduism fold. The families of the victims I spoke to, they also have embraced Hinduism back, and उनको प्रसाद दिया था, and they were made to feel welcomed कि नहीं, they that they are as part of Hinduism as anyone else, and they should not feel bad about it, or they should not feel that they did some crime. So yeah, there is a bit of that these things happen. They do there is a very strong undercurrent in the rural part of the Gujarat, where uh, they do bring back people to the Hinduism fold, those who have been taken by deceit or lured into other faith.
All right, two, three more questions, and then we'll jump straight into the live viewers' questions. So,
Hmm.
you know, the reports you're sharing, it doesn't matter if there are 5,000 or five. The reports, to me, indicate one thing: it is a law and order failure. It is a failure of the machinery of the government in general. And then the natural question, I as a BJP voter, I'm not saying you are a BJP voter, and nor do I want you to disclose your voting preferences. Uh, you could vote Nota also. Who knows? You were inspired by Anand Ranganathan's tweets. But my point is that if the BJP is there in general, has been in power in Gujarat for now more than 2 decades, more than 2 decades and a half. Uh, what does it say about the overall law and order machinery in Gujarat then?
So, couple of things. The Gujarat government has been proactive in this. Otherwise, they would not have brought in the forced religious conversion bill, the anti-forced religious conversion bill, which is very contentious in a lot of parts of country. Gujarat government was one of the first ones to implement it. Even the Disturbed Areas Act, for that matter, one of the few states to have this act in place, which is also at least notified. Certain areas are notified. So yes, the state machinery seems to be aware and uh, active, but I still feel there is a lot that needs to be done. For example, act la diye, but if you have not formed the rules and regulations and notified the rules, or if the state administration, the lower departments are not aware that these things are exist, in that case, it's a state failure. So if there is a Disturbed Areas Act in place in that particular area, and if the police officer is not aware of it or does not take it seriously, then it is it's a failure. Uh, Hopefully that doesn't happen that often, but it still does happen. There is always scope for improvement for everyone. Uh, I spoke to a lot of people. I asked them what they feel about the current state home minister, Harsh Sangvi, and how do they feel the general BJP government, including Modi at the center, who has been the chief minister. Uh, so they all say that things are in place, but things could still be better. Like a lot of people
Mm.
felt that Harsh is probably doing decently, but they all still feel little betrayed that the Hindus feel little left out. That Hindus should not have to leave their homes if out of fear from people in their own state. So that little bit of undercurrent is there, but even then they still feel that it's much better under the BJP here.
Fair enough. And are you satisfied with the Disturbed Areas Act? Do you think it is sound, or do you see any problems with that too? Because you had told me
No,
we
so
would start talking about it.
see, Disturbed Areas Act, how it is in place is that it's not that the entire city or state is placed under the Disturbed Areas Act. Only particular area would be placed under the act. So it's the district collector's responsibility to maintain law and order in the state, in the city, and that includes communal harmony. He is the main peacekeeper of the district. So what the commissioner would do is he would reach out to the police commissioner, ask him कि आपके in your police departments, various area wise, is there any place which where you have seen more FIRs or complaints about communal discord or such polarization they have felt, or such love jihad cases or forced religious conversion cases. So then the police commissioner will reach out to the police inspectors of various areas, and on basis of the information they get, they decide, the district collector decides which police station will fall into the Disturbed Areas Act. Right. So I don't know about Bombay, but in Ahmedabad, for example, different areas like Paldi police station. So everything that falls into the Paldi police station jurisdiction, that will be part of the Disturbed Areas Act, not the entire Ahmedabad. Now,
Got it.
Paldi is there would be part of the area, the act, because there again polarization. Jains and Muslim population live there together, so neither community should feel polarized. So it's not just Jains who should not feel polarized. Even Muslims should not feel polarized. People, places like even Juhapura has the act in place, or say Daryapur has it in place. So in that case, these are Muslim majority areas. So these places also have the act in place. That's also to protect the interest of the Muslims in that area, that they should not feel polarized. How it is then portrayed is that it is anti-Muslim act, but no, even their interests are being taken care of. It's just to make sure that everyone lives peacefully. कल उठ के ऐसा ना हो कि someone comes and tells you you can't play the bhajan here because it's against my it hurts my religious sentiments. You probably then, if the temple here, which is here since 400 years, if it hurts your religious sentiments, maybe you could have chosen to live somewhere else. Why would you want to then come to this place and change, make people feel uncomfortable with this way? So yeah,
Yeah,
that is the
I
disturbed
agree with
areas
you.
act.
Yep. So you know what the bottom line of all this is? Nobody wants to talk about it at a fundamental level. Again, these are my views, not Nirva's. Nobody wants to address this. Islam at a fundamental level. I'm not talking about Muslims, so nobody quote me that I'm talking about Muslims. I'm talking about Islam. Islam at a fundamental level has compatibility issues. Nobody wants to talk about it. That's just the fact because Jains live with Hindus. Jains can live with Sikh people. A little, the whole, it's very funny. Like, people don't like facts. Here's a little fact on this podcast. Hindus have this image of being the most vegetarian after Jains. Little do they know, Sikhs are more vegetarian than Hindus. But what's the standard in India? एक हाथ में whiskey की bottle, एक हाथ में तंदूरी chicken, बल्ले
Butter
बल्ले बल्ले
chicken.
बल्ले कर रहे हैं.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know that. The fact is, and Sikh लोगों में vegetarianism is not 1-2% more than Hindus. More than 12 to 13%. That's like a gigantic jump of vegetarianism. But they live together. You don't find ghettos where, like, so at a fundamental level, this doesn't mean we should ban Islam, nor am I insinuating that we
Right,
should ban
right,
Islam.
right.
Nor,
Exactly.
nor
Yeah,
do I
yeah.
intend to ban Islam. But my point is that we need to draw a line somewhere. Like, we need to draw that line somewhere where if you're not able to do your puja in an area, and this applies to the Muslim and the Hindu area too, by the way, and it should be even for everyone. So if a Muslim is not allowed to blare the loudspeaker after 10 p.m. according to the law, the Hindu should not be allowed to. If the Muslim is supposed to maintain certain noise decibels, the Hindu should also maintain certain noise decibels. But if the state fails, then what is happening in parts of Gujarat, where the moment X starts, Y starts of another religion, is going to happen. And which is why I always say it's the failure of the state beyond a point, and the state capacity. And unfortunately, in India, we don't talk about police reforms. We just don't. We don't want to hire more cops. Nobody. There is no vote bank for cops. Hire more cops. Like, two states in India have the highest police to citizen ratio. One is Punjab, one is Nagaland. Punjab being a border state and a completely ruined state because
Mm.
of terrorism in the early mid 80s to 90s, and Nagaland, I don't need to explain why the police is there. But even there, the ratio is not as per international standards. The international standard is like one cop for 100 people. In Punjab, it's like, I think, 200 or something. So even Punjab is like, you know half of what the international standard is. That's how bad it is. Gujarat is way below, by the way. Maharashtra is even worse than Gujarat, where Mumbai is the most well policed place in Maharashtra. Like, you go outside Mumbai, you will not see cops. You will literally not see cops. Police ka hai? Police hi nahi dikhti hai. It's that bad. But Mumbai, yeah, you see the police. So now let us get into, because a lot of the questions by the audiences are also related. Now, so it, so somebody has asked, I used to go on a bike ride and happened to come across Havya and Dang district. They are tribal areas. So are they still largely Christian, or has the demography in those areas changed today in Gujarat?
The
Do you
the
know?
Christian conversion mafia. I don't know the exact whether the demography has changed or not, but the tribal areas in Gujarat, especially the Dangs and Narmada areas, they do have the Christian conversion mafia, the missionary mafia managed there. That is a fact. Um, but now, as we can see in the urban part of the country, the Islam conversion is increasing.
Hmm. All right. This question is very interesting. Do the converted converted continue to get money or jobs in the long run? What
No,
happens
they
there?
don't. So the most of the times they don't. Like what happened in this racket where it was unearthed was also this, that they were promised a lot of money, but they didn't get a lot of
Hmm.
money. So they were promised, so unke naam pe they would get money, a huge amount of money, but pass on only fraction of that money to them. So that's when these people got realized. They realized that this is not, they did not convert them because they love them or because that they thought that Allah, they would be better off in the chaya of Allah, but they converted them because they were getting money. And after initial 4 5 months, the money stops.
No, I'll tell you a very funny story. I can't reveal the source at all because this is like really confidential. But I can tell you the latter half. So I was talking to someone and they told me what's the story that I was like, why do these conversions fail so much? ये क्या करेगा, इतना करप्ट लोग है, आधा पैसा खा जाता है और उसके बाद पैसा नहीं मिलता तो वापस वो लोग रिकन्वर्ट हो जाता है.
Which is true.
That happens. I'm telling you. I mean, I'll tell you the whole story offline because some things are meant to be offline. But yeah, this I can totally relate. It was very funny.
Yeah,
He literally told me, "क्या करेगा? आधा पैसा खा जाता है वो लोग." So the one who's
yeah.
getting the money to convert people, it's so corrupt that that person is also like मैं आधा मार लेता हूँ, आधा उसको ट्रांसफर करता हूँ, फिर बोलता है अरे बोला 100 दिया 50, ऐसे थोड़ा ना होता है, चीटिंग है, आई एम गोइंग बैक, डील कैंसल. So it actually happens. So yeah, see, people don't realize it's so funny and so complex. Okay, so this question has been asked to you. Apart from the minor in part one, how much has Nirva noticed are forced conversions in quotes he's written, that is conversion and fraud, versus being done willingly out of free will? As in, when you were talking to people, were there more forced conversions or were there more conversions out of just, I fell
Okay.
in love, I like this
This remind.
religion?
Okay, so remember that earlier I had this moment where I forgot what I was saying. I suddenly remembered it.
Exactly.
This question
Very
triggered
good.
that memory back. So thank you for the question. So I'll tell you a couple of things. One is a forced luring is happening in terms of hiding name, hiding identity. That is a fact. They are also lured by promises like no daru nahi piyunga, ye nahi karunga, tujhe pyar karunga. They would give them money to run the household for a couple of months so that she realizes, he's a good guy and all that. So this is all luring. This is all deceit. In other cases, when I was talking about the educated and the financially decently well off cases, what happens is that they would promise them ki we will not convert. You follow your faith, I'll follow my faith. That's how they are told, they are promised that there will be no conversion eventually. So they get married also under the Special Marriage Act. Now this is because also the girl's family is educated, girl is educated, so they know the law a little bit. So this is what happens now. In after couple of months, acha ye hai wo hai, she's groomed in a manner that everyone in the house is praying, is a believer of Islam, and they start that's all that faith is being talked about. So subsequently they are like, अच्छा, why don't you also, तुम इतना सब कर लिया है, हमारा बच्चा हो रहा है, ये है वो है, why don't you also convert to Islam? So that's when she converts to Islam. Now she converts to Islam, so now she does not part of the, now she's part of the Muslim Personal Law Board. So subsequently, when there have been cases where they have been abandoned or asked, or when the guy brings in a second wife or things like these happen, she is left with very little legal recourse because the personal law board comes into force, and she has very little to go on with. So yeah, this would also be termed as love jihad or the grooming jihad, as I would say, and because this is deceit. Even if you promised nahi hoga and there is no conversion in the beginning, there is no conversion at the time of marriage, but subsequently there is conversion, even if consensual, this is little problematic.
Yep. Because what people refuse to, to doubly back you up is that when the inherent nature of the religion is that if you don't believe in me, you're going to hell. there is always that incentive, whether it is out of love, as they say in Christianity, or whether it is out of other reasons in Islam. The point is, there is always this thing, if you're a believer, and I get it that not everyone thinks like that, but the point is, the fundamentals of the religion are built like that. I didn't make it, the damn religion is like that. So what do you want me to do, is my answer to everyone who says, how can you say that? Book पढ़ ले, मैंने नहीं बनाया है, मैंने book पढ़ ली, मैं तो book को ही quote करता हूँ सिर्फ. So the point is that there is always going to be this problem where, how can I be married to someone who's going to hell? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't have the answer for that, which leaves the larger question for, what are we going to do to that? I mean, I don't know, I don't have any good answers. But anyways, I want to ask the next question. So Nirva, being on the ground extensively for these reports, how many converts are reverting back to Hinduism, and how do they do that is the question. I think what they're interested in. So I'll elaborate. I think what they're trying to say, because Hinduism, not that other religions in India don't, because even Muslims, we know the Pasmanda issue, and Christians also have casteism in them, and Sikhs have the Jat Sikh and the Ramgadiya Ravidasiya problem, before anybody says that. But Hindus also have a casteism problem, which is one of the reasons why people convert out of Hinduism, like it or not. That is a reality. Now, how do they tackle this problem? Like, what do folks like RSS, Bajrang Dal, and many other religious organizations do when they come back? Is like there is some ceremony involved? I mean, what do they do?
I am not very aware of these things. What I got to know from them, I was not told a lot of details. I should have asked more details, but maybe for next time. But they were taken to temples. They were made to recite the holy scriptures, the Sanskrit shlokas, and given the prasad and told them, this is how it is. This is your faith, and this is welcome back to the faith. But that's all that I'm aware of. Unfortunately, I don't know what the entire process of reverting to Hinduism is about. I should probably uh, learn more about it maybe next time.
Yeah, because I think ritualism and this whole thing about purity and pollution is a very common factor in all religious identities from an evolutionary level. I'm just talking about it. And it's just, if you enter a club, right? Just think about it. Even if you enter a Rotary club, there is a welcome ceremony, right? They welcome you in, or the Lions Club, or so look at religion as a larger club, right? So if you're re entering that club, what did you do for me? I'm back. It's like, okay, yele. It's that kind of a thing. So that's why when we join a soccer club too, there is that, okay, you have your beer or something. So ritual is part of that. So I guess, I mean, in my experience, I've seen a lot of places they do a havan, because of my Arya Samaj background, and that, lo and behold, Arya Samaj is the biggest reconverting organization in India, which people don't realize. Arya Samaj was the one who make conversion great again, hashtag, kind of. Arya Samaj
Yeah, we,
was
we
the
we
one who
call
did.
it reverting because we believe that all it's Hinduism is the original religion. Because
Yes,
obviously
Ghar
India
Wapsi.
being so it is Ghar Wapsi, it's reverting to Hinduism, not reconverting to
Yeah. So
Hinduism.
yeah, so that was the thing. Okay, so this is asked another. So Nirva, you spoke of a lack of empathy for the victim. Can you elaborate, what do you think is the key problem, and what can we do as a society to tackle that? Because look, at the end of the day, if that poor girl went through that, and this is actually a very good question that the viewer has asked, somewhere the society has failed her too, right? Where she comes back and she faces all these issues, and
Yeah.
especially, let's just be very clear, for women it's harder. It is harder for women, and these issues matter. So do you think the activists, when I'm talking about, there are NGOs that also work on this, so are the NGOs looking at this specific aspect, where maybe there are kind of support groups for women who come back to their old
There
faith,
are,
original faith?
yeah. There are. In fact, I'll tell you how the lack of empathy was so bad. In the 90s, there was this major mass sexual abuse scandal that had come out in Ajmer,
Mm.
where the people
Yes.
associated were the Chistis, who were the families of the caretakers of the Ajmer Dargah. One of the prime accused was he surrendered a couple of years back only, but the scandal was so big and it was so humiliating. There were so many underage girls involved, hundreds of the girls involved. When you talk about the lack of empathy, there were reports that when for years after the scandal broke out, some of the times the parents of the groom would go and talk to the police and try to make sure that the girl they have chosen for their son was not one of the victims in the sex scandal. So this is the lack of empathy. How does it matter?
My
Was it her
goodness, this is
choice that she was
pathetic.
part of it? Yeah. So see that's the lack of empathy, right? You how does that matter if you've chosen the girl? You do you want to dig into her past for what joy? Doesn't she have the all the right to be as happy in a married life? It is such a humiliating thing when someone your prospective and suppose the girl was not even part of the sex scandal. Imagine the plight of the new bride then, that her in-laws actually did this. They inquired whether she was part of a sex scandal or not. That is also more humiliating for the girl who was probably not even a victim of the scandal.
Hmm.
So this kind of lack of empathy, the mother would keep a tab on the girl ki acha kisse baat kar rahi hai phone pe, why is she talking again on phone, who is she going out with, she keeping a father keeping a tab on her, keeping her calling her, or looking down upon her and not talking to her. These are the things that make you feel ki, maybe you did such a huge crime that you are not, your own parents are not willing to talk to you. So why would you then blame the society if your own folks are not talking to you? So society, as a society, also we need to be a little more conscious that ठीक है, like shit happens. Things were beyond her control. Even if she went with the guy out of her own free will, because she was deceived, she thought that Sonu was a Hindu, and the idea that he was not of the same faith did not strike her. And when she decides to, okay, this is wrong, and she wants to come back, then just take her back, man. Why are you making life all the more difficult for her? Not that she is very happy or proud of what she did. So even in case of say conversion of families of say where the Dalits conversions happen in, or tribals are converted in other parts of the country, they are also uh, uh, when they come back, or sometimes they a lot of Hindus, they use very derogatory terms for them. uh, how do you then, how would they then feel welcome back into your faith if you're being so mean? When I shared the video of Pooja on Twitter, there were some people leaving comments that no sympathy for her. Why no sympathy for her? She is literally telling you that she was abducted. Why do you still not have sympathy for her? It really, it's moral decay is so deep. I can't believe it.
I the only way I can present it, Nirva, is that when you, whether we like it, again, my views, not Nirva's, but then I'm known to piss people off. Uh, when you mix misogyny, sexism with religion, it's a lethal combination, because you have a certifying agency now, right, which certifies this rubbish. And I mean, Twitter is a perfect place where we get exposed to a lot of this rubbish, where that girl is literally a victim, that girl you have spoken about, and she goes through trauma, and all the geniuses can offer is shaming the victim. And that stems from, whether we like it or not, that stems from a very sexist and misogynistic attitude. Whether people like it or not, that's just the fact of life. And oh, this is a Western construct. जो कहना कर लो भैया, वेस्टर्न हो या स्कैंडिनेवियन हो या किधर का भी हो, प्रॉब्लम है, you can't. And you know what the funny is, this is the same lot that whines when conversion happens, this is the same lot that shames the victim when they come back. How can you have it both ways? Their answer would be, जाना ही नहीं चाहिए था. अरे तो तूने तेरी लाइफ में कभी गलती नहीं की है क्या? तो तेरी गलती होती थी तो तेरे तेरे साथ भी ये करेंगे तो क्या होएगा? मतलब what kind of a monstrous attitude is this? And it's just disgusting. I don't know how to say it, but and sometimes I feel like I have to say certain things because for multiple reasons some people don't say it, so I just go ahead and say it. It's a huge problem in our society. Like, every day on Twitter, I I see women being exposed to what kind of rubbish. I mean, and everybody is like, oh, silly deals, bully deals. I can, Nirva, right now. In fact, what the hell? I'll read those hashtags. What kind of ridiculous targeting uh, women are exposed to was sent to me in an email. Hindu women being targeted on social media, and because it's all part of this shit show that we talk about, uh, and I don't know how I managed to go and you know read all of that, but holy shit, um, I went through some of those. I don't know. Should I take the names of those sites and make them famous, or those hashtags? Is what I'm worried about. It's like I went through those hashtags. I got an email, and oh my word, were those emails crazy? There are specific hashtags that you know target Hindu
H
women,
starts,
and
yeah, H for M.
yes,
There
yes,
were rape fantasies, there were porn fantasies on
oh my
where
god,
the woman was a Hindu woman and sanskari woman. They mention in the caption that
yeah,
I'm a sanskari Hindu woman, and my husband. And then they would have the fantasy of how she's also obviously married, because they show her wearing a mangal sutra and sindoor, and then she's fantasizing
you know what?
about a man who's obviously a Muslim man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really in a double mind because I know the hashtags that are there. I mean,
Yeah, I wrote
that
an article on it. I know the hashtag as well.
yeah, it's so I'm just gonna. One of them is hashtag Sanskari. I know you're talking about. One of them is hashtag Sanskari, and I just went through those hashtags and I went through those posts. And if you're this tribal, and this is for both sides, that if you're this tribal and into group thing, that you can only see one side of trauma and you can't see other, you're the problem,
Yeah,
not anybody else. I have a problem with silly deals, bully deals, as well as this.
absolutely, absolutely. Both the spectrum, both of them. The Sully deal,
It's
bully
it,
deal, as bad as this bad. Along with Sully deal, bully deal, and all that, the fact that the actual grooming jihad takes place. Let us not also ignore the crime on ground, and not
yes,
just on social
and
media.
dedicated targeting on social media through hashtags of Hindu girls specifically, and there are proper hashtags for this. The only reason I'm not doing this is because I know a lot of incels follow me who have nothing else to do in life, and they're going to go and check those women out and harass them. That is the only reason I'm not sharing those hashtags right now on the chat. Otherwise I could have done that, because I don't want to encourage those incels to go and target those women even more. The point is, it's ridiculous. But you know what, I'm conscious of our time, Nirva, so before we wrap things up, I'm going to give you the last word. So take it. So what are your last words?
Last words, let us, as I said, I think the crime on ground, let us not ignore that these things happen. Let us not turn a blind eye. Yes, not all interfaith marriages are grooming jihad. Yes, people may want to convert to different religion out of their own free will. But having said that, there are also so many thousands and thousands of cases where there is an element of deceit, and these should be called out. There has to be a stronger law in force, so that for all people of all faith. It's not just Hindus who are being lured into, say, Christianity or Islam. Even that's happening in Punjab as well to Sikhs, where there are so many videos of forced conversion that we have seen, where baptism is happening of turban Sikhs and all that. So obviously, they are as well a minority, right? If Hindu is a majority religion, Sikhs form part of the minority community in India. So that these bills also protect them and their interests. So and while Sulli deals, bully deals, all these hashtags, yes, they are there. Um the harassment online is there. I may sound I'm not dismissing these at all, but also being very realistic. These are very least likely to convert into actual crimes.
Hmm.
uh, Having said that, let us also focus on the actual crimes, which are way more dangerous. There are lives at stake here. The woman turns up in a suitcase. So let's not dismiss these cases as figment of Hindutva imagination. Um, that's my only concern. That's, let's not ignore these cases.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nirva. First of all, before we wrap today's chat up, I once again want to say that I'm really proud of the work you've done. Uh, Fantastic work. I love, the moment I read them, I was like, oh God, this is some brilliant work, and full marks to you for going out there, grinding it out, and producing these reports. So and thanks, sir. I want to thank you. Thanks for doing this, because maybe these stories would not have come out, maybe this would not have come out, and good on you, and I hope you continue to do this work. So and thanks for coming and chatting with me too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap today's discussion up. But so before I go, I just want to say this. Look, I am not someone. In fact, one of the biggest reasons I'm disliked by the non-left also is that I don't hate Muslims apparently enough for them. But I refuse to, because I'm not like that. I am a rational human being. I talk about ideas. I don't talk about individuals. There are good individuals, bad individuals, and I'm not gonna look at it any other way through the prism of ideology, and that's all I do. But to and I know many people in the left do come and listen to this podcast or watch it on YouTube. To you, I think you need to do some introspection. These stories are real. The life of that woman, who's called Pooja, obviously the name has changed, is ruined, and the trauma she's gone through is real. And if you are a left winger, I thought left wingers were all about compassion and empathy. And
And
if you can't
feminism.
feel for, yeah, and if you can't feel for them, boy, there's something wrong with your head. There is something seriously wrong with your head. And I don't know what else to say other than, we need to step up and talk about these reports. We need to talk against this. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle, because if you go through pain and agony, because the process of proselytization is really mind shattering, especially in the case you know, of a pagan or a non Abrahamic person. uh, Going into the other side, it's just because the worldviews are so different. A lot of times when a Christian converts to Islam, a lot of base level agreements exist about the religion. But in the case of a pagan going to the other side, it's a very completely different process. And in my work, I have seen the trauma that they go through, and it's not good. And to say it is not an issue is a disservice. I'm going to wrap today's discussion up on this. Another thing, all the four reports that Nirva has written, what I have done is, in the description of this podcast, I have left a link to Nirva's page on Op India. So what that will do is that when you go there, you click that link, you will get all the reports together. Obviously, there are other articles that Nirva has written too, and I would encourage you to read them too. But this is the best way to go. I could have left all the four links separately, but that would have been shoddy. So it's better this way. And I encourage you to go and read it. Read it with an open mind. If you have questions, I've left Nirva's Twitter handle too. Maybe you can ask questions to her on Twitter too, and she would be more than happy to maybe clarify your queries there too. Also, in the end, be a kind human being. Don't be a jackass. And especially if you are on Twitter, don't be nasty to women. Don't do it. I'll leave it at that. Keep listening to the Cārvāka podcast. You know the drill. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.